(8:45). This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by J. Yogaraj and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. Mobile vaccination service for those who are confined to homes due to illnesses. Quarantine measures amended for incoming travellers during the COVID pandemic. 16, including CTU's Joseph Stalin, to be released from quarantine. 1,079 new COVID cases reported so far today. Coronavirus update, 918 more patients discharged upon recovery. Interprovincial bus and train services suspended until August 1st. In news overseas, South Africa's Zuma riots, armed police protect food deliveries. And in sports news, Bhanuka Rajapaksa picked for Indian ODIs and T20Is. Kumara and Rajitha returned from injuries. Those were the headlines, and now more to the details of the local news. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has instructed the officials to launch a mobile vaccination service for those who are suffering from illnesses and are unable to leave their homes. The COVID-19 vaccination process has been expedited at the district level throughout the country. However, the vaccination of the people who are sick and unable to leave home has become an obstacle. The President emphasized the need to expedite the mobile vaccination program with the assistance of the medical officers and the public health inspectors, or by obtaining information through the special telephone numbers, the President's media division said. The President expressed these views at a meeting with the Special Committee on COVID-19 Control held at the Presidential Secretariat this morning on the vaccination drive and future operations. The COVID-19 committee revealed that the higher percentage of COVID-19 patients identified in the last few days have not received the vaccine, and the deaths were also those who have not been vaccinated. Therefore, the President pointed out the need to make people aware of the importance of the vaccination and to get them involved in the vaccination program. The Civil Aviation Authority of Sri Lanka says few restrictions have been revised for the Sri Lankans, dual citizens, diplomatic and corps members of India, South American countries, African countries and European countries. Accordingly, these passengers should be quarantined for 14 days in selected hospitals or special centres upon arrival to the island. Also, these passengers will have to undergo 2 PCR tests during their stay in quarantine centres. The officials of the Mullaitivu Quarantine Centre have decided to release the 16 trade union activists who were placed under isolation at the facility following a protest which they had staged last week. More than 30 protesters, including General Secretary of the Ceylon Teachers Union CTU, Joseph Stalin, who were engaged in the protest at Polduva roundabout in Battaramulla, were arrested on the 8th of July over unlawful assembly in violation of the quarantine regulations. The demonstrations have been organized by the Inter-University Students' Federation, the Ceylon Teachers Union and the Frontline Socialist Party against the proposed Sir John Kothalavala National Defence University Bill. The arrestees were later released on bail after being produced before the Colombo Magistrates Court under the provision of the Quarantine and Prevention of Diseases Ordinance. Additional Magistrate Karchana Niranjala De Silva had ordered the release on personal bail of 25,000 rupees each. The police, alleging that the protest has caused severe public disturbances, had requested the court to place the suspect in remand custody and to order them to be sent to quarantine. This is news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And we continue with more local news. The Ministry of Health says that 1,079 more persons were tested positive for the novel coronavirus so far today. All new cases have been associated with the New Year COVID-19 cluster. This brings the total number of COVID-19 cases confirmed in the country thus far to 281,622. According to official data, more than 23,000 virus-infected people are currently being treated at designated hospitals and treatment centres across the island. Recoveries count climbed to 254,871 today, with 918 more patients who were under medical care for novel coronavirus returning to health. Meanwhile, the death toll from the pandemic outbreak in Sri Lanka now stands at 3,661. The COVID committee today decided to suspend all interprovincial bus and train services until the 1st of August from tomorrow, Transport State Minister Dilip Amadugama said. The decision was taken at the COVID committee meeting held today, he said. Earlier, the interprovincial buses and trains were operated to facilitate the people to commute for essential services. But it was found that more people other than the essential services attendees were using the transport services disregarding health guidelines. The state minister said permission was granted to operate a limited number of buses and trains between the provinces only to facilitate essential service workers. Nevertheless, only a limited number of buses and trains will be operated again from the 1st of August. The Civil Aviation Authority of Sri Lanka says that the fully vaccinated travellers who have not arrived from a travel-restricted country and have been released from quarantine on an arrival day 1 negative PCR report do not have to undergo a PCR test on day 7. Health Services today also states that all travellers of 2 years and above arriving in Sri Lanka should mandatorily carry a negative COVID-19 PCR test report in English language done within 72 hours prior to embarkation. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. Mobile vaccination service for those who are confined to homes due to illnesses. Quarantine measures amended for incoming travellers during the COVID pandemic. 16, including CTU's Joseph Stalin, to be released from quarantine. 1,079 new COVID cases reported so far today. Coronavirus update, 918 more patients discharged upon recovery. Interprovincial bus and train services suspended until 1st of August. And that was the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The main news story for tonight, the Australian government has provided a special technically equipped multi-day craft to monitor the oceanic behaviour in the Indian Ocean. This craft will be useful to protect the boundary perimeters of Sri Lanka and observe any adverse changes in the Indian Ocean. The craft will also be used to prevent drug trafficking and human trafficking. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And in Washington tonight, the health officials request the public to follow the health guidelines during this period. Although the travel restrictions are relaxed, the passengers are advised to follow the health regulations strictly. The public is requested to follow the special guidelines issued by the Health Ministry to control the third wave of the corona outbreak. The health officials warned that further travel restrictions will be determined in the future based on the behavior of the general public. That came to you in Washlight, and now we move on to the headlines of the world news. South Africa Zuma riots, armed police protect food deliveries. Australia COVID, Melbourne's step lockdown sparks protests. Europe flood, at least 120 dead and hundreds unaccounted for. Those were the headlines, and I will move on to the details of the world news. Armed South African police officers are protecting deliveries of food and supplies to supermarkets after days of widespread looting and violence. Riots were sparked by the jailing of former President Jacob Zuma. An estimated $1 billion worth of stock has been stolen from KwaZulu-Natal, with at least 800 retail shops looted, a mayor in the province said. President Cyril Ramaphosa said that his government would not allow anarchy and mayhem to prevail. Hours after a 5-day step lockdown was announced for the state of Victoria, protesters took to the streets of Melbourne. Rally organisers said that they want to preserve individual and economic freedom and also so oppose the restrictions. The measures were triggered by a Delta outbreak which has spread from Sydney. At least 120 people have died and hundreds more in the Western Europe are unaccounted for after some of the worst flooding in the decades. Record rainfall caused rivers to burst the banks, devastating the region. In Germany, where the death toll now stands at over 100, Chancellor Angela Merkel called for a determined battle against the climate change. Belgian media is reporting 22 deaths there. The Netherlands, Luxembourg and Switzerland are also affected. And to conclude the world news, the headlines once again. South Africa Zuma riot, armed police protect food deliveries. Australia COVID, Melbourne step lockdown sparks protests. Europe floods, at least 120 dead and hundreds unaccounted for. And that was the world news.
Development News is brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melba RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melba RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
And in development news, Minister Prasanna Ranathuge expressed confidence that the tourism industry will be back to normal by the end of September. The minister also said a special promotional campaign about Sri Lanka's tourism is being carried out internationally at present. Special travel packages are introduced to attract foreign tourists, the minister added. And that came to you in the segment of development news.
Development News was brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melba RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melba RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
Moving on to sports news, Baduka Rajapaksa, who was fined by SLBC earlier this month for breach of contract, has been named in the 25-member Sri Lanka squad for the rescheduled ODI and T20I series at home against India starting on 18th July. Uncapped batter Lahiru Udara and seam bowling all-rounder Ishan Jayaratne received all ups in the absence of several big players. In returning from injury, Lahiru Kumara and Kasun Rajitha also are featured in the squad, which was without four of the side's first-choice batters, Danushka Gunathilaka, Kusal Mendis, Niroshan Dikala and Kusal Pereira, who are unavailable owing to suspension or injury. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
And in business news, Sampath Bank reiterated its commitment to supporting businesses all around the island with the integration of its extensive suite of corporate cash management services under one umbrella to offer greater convenience to its customers. Working together with its business customers to identify their unique requirements, the bank seeks to develop tailor-made solutions that bring together relevant elements of its cash management portfolio to serve them better. Cash and check collection, check printing and distribution, investment portfolio management, business debit cards, data validation, reconciliation services, integration to customers' ERP and sweeping and pooling of funds are some of the facilities offered under the Total Cash Management Solutions. That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news. Courtesy of
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by Ikra Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
And in economic news, member of the Monetary Board, Rani Jamaha, notes that the economy grew at 4.3% in the first quarter of the year 2021 and expects to grow to reach closer to 5% at the end of this year. Jamaha noted that Sri Lanka remains committed to ensuring its clean debt repayment record and noted that the debt management agencies had put off going to the capital markets to raise funds due to the high prevailing costs in the current environment. Jamaha was speaking yesterday at an Alphan Capital organized webinar on the outlook of the Sri Lankan banking and NBFI sector. That was economic news and the weather report to conclude.
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by Ikra Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally, the weather report, the Met Department says several spells of showers will occur in the Sabarkamua and Western provinces and in the Gaul and Mathura districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places elsewhere during the evening or night. Heavy showers about 100 millimeters can be expected at some places in the Uva, Eastern and North Central provinces. General public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. This weather report was published this evening at 7 p.m. Further details could be obtained by visiting the official website of the department. Meanwhile, the International Weather Forecast website AccuWeather.com says that Colombo weather was generally bright during the day but cloudy in the evening. Today's daytime temperature was around 30 degrees Celsius. There was light showers in many places in the Colombo district in the night. Tonight's temperature will be around 28 degrees Celsius and there will be scattered showers in selected spots later in the night. The ground temperature would be around 30 degrees Celsius at the time of this news broadcast. The Air Quality Index AQI is 19, which shows a fair condition in Colombo. The air quality is generally acceptable for most individuals. And that was the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And before we conclude this bulletin of news, let's get back to the headlines once again. Mobile vaccination service for those who are confined to home due to illnesses. Quarantine measures amended for incoming travelers during the COVID pandemic. 16, including CTU's Joseph Stalin, to be released from quarantine. 1,079 new COVID cases reported so far today. Coronavirus update, 918 more patients discharged upon recovery. Interprovincial bus and train services suspended until 1st of August. In news overseas, South Africa's Zuma riots, armed police protect food deliveries. And in sports news, Banuka Rajapaksa picked for ODIs and T20Is. Kumara and Rajitha returned from injuries. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news.